Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 8:45, and we start the class on time. So may I have your attention, please? Thank you. Okay. I am happy to meet all of you. In a way, also, it's a kind of difficult and uncomfortable to introduce yourself, but here we go. My name is Miriam Estrada Castillo. Miriam. My name is, as I said, my name is Miriam Estrada Castillo, and I am a resident professor here at the university in the section of international law and human rights. So I will be teaching some courses on the international law department during the academic year. In order to give you just some highlights of my career, I worked for the UN in different capacities. International Prosecutor General of Timor-Leste in a mission of support for peace in East Timor, when East Timor was coming out of the genocide committed over there. These are my two last responsibilities at the United Nations, and special advisor, legal and political advisor of the United Nations Security Council Counterterrorism Executive Directorate in New York. So those were my last 9 years of career. I have been also a member, vice chairperson, and chairperson of CEDAW committee. This is the committee that follows the Convention on the elimination of all forms of discrimination against women in New York. Previously in my country, I was a president of the Supreme Court for minors, etc., etc. Long career means long life. Long life means lots of years. So then we just keep quiet on the issue of the years. But I believe that the most, all experiences are important, but as the poem goes, it's so important to experience living in New York and working in a way for the government of the world. Because at the end of the day, the Security Council, and particularly as we will see with the international law students, and particularly the P5, when it comes to the main problem that humanity is facing nowadays, which is terrorism, and the fight between the imposition of an unipolar world against a multipolar world. So we can easily say that the P5 are indeed those who represent the government of the world. That this is correct, I will have to tell you that no. Because, as you are very well aware, UN was founded and organized even before the Second World War finished. Remember that the meeting in Yalta was in 1942, and it was in the meeting in Yalta in Russia, at the time the Soviet Union, that where it was established that the P5 will have the privilege of the veto. And so we are talking about 1942. Imagine, I was not even born yet. So that is to say that long time has passed by. If we start thinking that I saw TV for the first time when I was 10 years old, and my home was like a kind of a place where all people will come, like to to attend a party just to watch TV in white and black, like that, no colors, etc. And everybody used to come very elegant, well-dressed, etc., to sit at the, at the living room and watch TV. So then you will see how old, not me, the Security Council, the Security Council, oops, the Security Council privilege are. So that is the idea that I want you to keep in mind, because, gracias Gerardito, because what we are going to check now is, according to the curricula, gender mainstreaming in peace building. So, you will find that my classes are a little different from others. Why? Essentially because I want you, number one, to take your own conclusions. But in order for you to take your own conclusions, I need to give you plenty of information of the reality of the world. Now, at this stage of life, I am a professor, but I have been a practitioner my whole life. And I believe that is a good addition for the academia to have practitioners, because we know how the real world is. If you want to be an academic, you will study your master's degree, then you will study your PhD, then you will work on your PhD, and you will never experience the reality in the field. Which means that after 20 years of living in the ivory tower, you will come with an extraordinary solution for peace that is so easy. It's no more to do like A, B, C, and D. Why people are not doing that? Why not? Okay, come and look. How is it in reality? Huh? So I believe that what I come today to offer to you is the possibility for you to, having had already the theory, the different approaches to what peace is, or to what does it mean to building peace, keeping peace, sustainable development, blah, 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 equality, non-discrimination, blah, 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 blah. We are all brothers, sisters, etc. No? Women, men. LGBT people, blah, blah, blah. What is the real problem, ladies and gentlemen? I'm sorry, but what is the real problem? We will see today what is the real problem. And then you will have the opportunity to discuss among yourself. She laughed because she has been my student. What are you doing in this class? You took already this class. Okay, so you she was always late, that's true. So, excuse me. Today I want to kill myself because there is no diet, Coca-Cola Light. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So, what you are going to have is the luxury that after this, let's say, conference, that we are going to review some concepts and some contexts that are important while you go in the second part of the morning to discuss among yourself in the different groups. Knowing this, plus the theories that you have been taught the previous weeks, you can come up with a solution from something that I believe is really marvelous that is going on here. You all come from different places in the world. And therefore, you are all unique. The way in which you think also is unique. The way in which you think in accordance to your age and experience is absolutely unique. So, when we are all together and we come from such a different backgrounds at all levels, at all possible levels, geographical level, generational level, national level, etc., and experience level, because maybe some of you are just graduated, and maybe others have already a master's degree and wants to specialize on this particular subject. So there are different levels here. You can approach the problem that the world is living now and propose maybe solutions with new eyes. And on this, I want to thank all of you, because I believe that it's a privilege for me to be able to share with you my experiences. Because at the same time that I am sharing with you my experiences, I am enriching myself with your vision. Huh? I don't know if you remember this poem of Khalil Gibran. He said that your children are never your children. They are the children of life. But the part that I want to stress here is the part that says that your children will see the future and will belong to the future, which is a place where you could not visit, not even in your dreams. So I would like to have a talk with Kahil and tell him, while teaching, I have the opportunity to visit the future because of you. So that's why for me it's a privilege to teach you. And that's why for me this is a real joy and pleasure. So now let's go to have a dip in the ocean of the blah blah and, and some realities of the world. Okay, so this is gender mainstreaming in peace building. And I like to share with you that I usually use this methodology to approach the problems when they are part of the socioeconomic, political, historical development of the society. You cannot analyze any problem if you don't have a proper context and if you don't have a proper concept of the issues, no? So that's why this first slide is talking about concepts and context. The methodology is called conceptualizing and contextualizing, because it's the only way to have a glimpse of the reality, no? Why? Because nothing comes from nothing. I just repeat a line of The Sound of Music. This is a song. Now immediately I thought, wow, Julie Andrews came to my mind. Nothing comes from nothing. But in reality, what I wanted to say was, not any conflict, not any socioeconomic and political problem, but we are in the middle of the jungle. There are... Jesus, I almost killed myself. Okay, so what I wanted to stress out here is that no any problem, no any conflict, no any confrontation in the reality of the everyday society comes from a vacuum. Everything has a root. Everything has a reason. Everything has previous historical, socioeconomic, or political what? Grievances that has not been attended. And something which is very important and goes directly to sovereignty. Absolutely every state, according to the UN Charter of Foundation, has sovereignty. And every state has also the right to solve its own problems with the possibility to exercise self-determination. Therefore, you must have very clear in your mind that you cannot decrete democracy. You cannot decrete peace. You cannot decrete development. You cannot decrete non-discrimination. You cannot decrete equality, because these particular are the result of the socio-economic evolution and development of the society that you are examining or working in. So that is a fundamental and scientific truth. We cannot come here, land here. It's so funny. And I have seen this so many times because I have been training and teaching people all over the world. And I have had, for example, colleagues. Let's say that we are in Botswana. So here we are, the colleagues. I come from the third world, as now is called very elegantly the global south. No, we cannot be now underdeveloped or in development or whatever. Non-developed, that is too rude, is not politically correct. So now we are the global south, although many of us are in the north. So, okay, the global south, so that everybody will be happy and nobody will feel that is being insulted. So, this person from the global south, coming from a country as small and without absolutely any power in the world. This is Ecuador. Ecuador, in the middle of the world, we say. Okay. So tiny, tiny country, no international political power. Close to a person, of course I am not going to name any country because it's not the ethical thing to do. Close to a person, to another expert that comes from the first world, as they call themselves, the north, the developed world, etc., talking to NGOs in Botswana. What is going to happen? Incredibly, this has been my experience, and I am telling this to you because maybe some of you will decide to be a trainer. Huh? You don't go to teach them anything. You go to share with them, and you are going to learn from them. That's it. And it's a privilege that they allow you to do so. Unfortunately, this is not the attitude of some experts. They come and they tell you, you don't know anything about this, you should do A, B, C, and D, and you must do this, this, and that, and you this, and that. So, as I am from the global south, I come from a country that has been colonized. I know what it means, and I know what it means to try, for example, to connect to internet and, you know, go to your knees and say, God, please allow me to connect. 3 seconds, huh? So as I know that, so my attitude is different. And I have to tell you that that is the key for success. Then I am talking on your behalf for you to make your living. Don't go arrogant, because unfortunately, you were born in the first world. You don't know what it means to be a survival in the third world. No, let's call the things by their names. No. So I always laugh of my dearest colleagues, and I tell them, if I place you in 9 de Octubre, Boyacá, that is a corner in my country which is very, very dangerous, you will be dead in 3 seconds. And I will survive the next 100 years. Because in the third world, if you are not dead when you are 7 years old, you will live at least 100 years. So that's a fact. So all this just to be like comprising one particular issue. All people of the world have the right to self-determination. All society of the world have the right to solve their own issues in accordance to their own realities. And the rest of us are there not to impose, not to intervene, not to invade, not to declare war, not to try to steal natural resources, not to try to build war bases while I am preaching peace to everybody, but to support and help those countries to develop. Why? Essentially because they are underdeveloped, because I am developed, because I took your wealth first. If we are in agreement with that, then we can talk about what does it mean to build peace, no? So, number one, we have to understand the full context in which the problem has been created. So the big questions will be why, what for, how this evolved, what is the general situation of the society, who has the power, who has the power of decision, what are the external forces that are here in this particular environment trying to benefit for this particular conflict, because this is what exists. No, is this a real conflict, or is this an artificial country? Is this a real war, or is this a proxy war? It has been created specifically for the advantage of a power, because that power wants either the wealth of this country, the natural resources, the geographical strategic position of this country, or is indeed the result of the evolution and development of their own society. So having that in mind, you are able to know what are the historical antecedents of that particular country, keeping in mind this principle. When we all walk the earth, learning to become human beings, we were all equals. Why, I ask you? Why we were all equals when we were trying to become human beings? To the class, you are already 2 weeks here, so you must know this. Do you remember that when we start learning to become human beings, we were essentially what? Before being monkeys, after being monkeys. Not exactly monkeys, but let's say a kind of.
There was no sense of welfare. There was no sense of welfare.
It was no sense of welfare, but before that, how do we live at those times? What was before that, what was our common problem? Try to survive, survival, exactly. And because of that, did we live in just one place, or were we moving all around?
We were nomads.
So we were nomads. By being nomads, and why we were nomads? We were nomads because we couldn't control the society. Nature. We couldn't control nature. We didn't know how to use our hand. That's why I am saying no jet fishing. No jet hunting. We couldn't control our hands, the use of our hand. We were animals coming as human beings, evolving to become human beings. So that's why we had to be nomads in order to survive. No? What happened in the moment that we stayed in a place? Then we start developing ourselves as human beings. We start using our hand. We start working. We start making an impact in nature in order to put nature to our service. And we start developing our language. We need to communicate in order to work. No? That is a primitive community. And this is the reason why discrimination appears in the moment in which, let me tell you this first. When we were nomads, because our ignorance in relation to how to dominate and put nature towards our service, we couldn't accumulate. It was not possible. we couldn't have a lot of things, this is mine. That concept didn't exist because everything was for everybody because we needed to survive, no? So the real discrimination appears when we start accumulating, when the division of labor comes to life, meaning some people are hunters, and because of that they will get more wealth. Others are working in the land, and because of that maybe they will have more land one to the other in comparison, or they will have private property. They will say, this is mine because I am the one that has been working on this piece of land, or this is mine because I hunted and I brought it with me back. And that produced also the division of social classes. That is the way in which the society was organized, no? And of course, once that we have accumulated, once that we are staying here in the same place, once that we have different levels of wealth, once that we have different levels of properties, what do we need? We need rules. We need the rules. That's the origin of the legal system. And later on, these rules became, of course, I am talking millions of years in 3 seconds, which is not fair, actually. But these are millions of years in the development of the human being and the human society. So now that we have the establishment of a legal system, we will have authorities, and of course, later on we will have a body that will govern us, and then our lands, our properties, our borders will be bigger, therefore we will have our own states and our own nations. So this is, in 3 minutes, millions of years of civilization. And because we don't have time to go, unfortunately, it's just one class, I have to tell you that this was the way in which society was organized in the different cycles of its development. We started being nomads, then we were sedentaries. When we were sedentaries, remember, it was matriarchy, the social system that was in place. Why? Because men were to hunt, remember? So far, science cannot tell you why and when matriarchy fell down. That we don't know in history. We will know it someday, for sure, because human beings are just extraordinary. Intelligence is extraordinary. And I can say this because I am not flying in a plane. But when I feel a gigantic plane getting up, I don't say, well, we are extraordinary because I am afraid. You know? Normally I am atheist, but in moments of desperation and danger, I become Catholic, Apostolic, and Roman. But, you know, it is supposing that religion, you can ask, a favor to God as long as you say, I repent, make me this favor, that's okay. So, yes, we are extraordinary. So we don't know yet, but we will know. After that matriarchy fell down, it happened also a very specific phenomenon. What happened? It was when patriarchy came as a social system, historically speaking, we had another division that generally we don't observe when we are studying the development of the society. We adopted the division of the public space and the private space. That was not in matriarchy. Because remember, in matriarchy, everybody was together, where everybody was taking the same decisions, everybody was trying to support one to other, you were consulting with all people, etc. It was like that, while men were hunting and bringing back either food or whatever. In a moment that nobody knows what happened or when or how it happened, somebody, because we're humans, somebody thought, why am I going to kill this one if I can take it with me and he will be doing, because I am forgiving his life, no? He will be doing whatever I want. Huh? Perfect. Slavery was born. Perfect. I am not killing you, but I am bringing you back. You will work for me, and you will be my slave. Why? Because I didn't kill you. This happened in patriarchy. From slavery, humanity jumped to feudalism. Feudalism, the medieval, it lasted 1,000 years in humanity. So, ladies and gentlemen, 70 years in history is a drop of water. There is an anecdote that I share with you. It's given to Mao Zedong. He was asked by a Western journalist, trying to be very clever. He said, what do you think of the impact of Jesus Christ in the Western civilization? Mao Zedong was thinking, and he said, to tell you the truth, it's very early to make a comment. Okay? And we were in 1980. Very early to tell you. Only almost 2,000 years in a millenary civilization. What are you asking me? It's just yesterday. Huh? So we are talking about how long history can last, how long a system can last. But because human beings, we are so clever and so extraordinary, every different movement and every different system is being developed quicker and quicker. So we have jumped from feudalism to the primary stage of capitalism. We jumped to capitalism. And from capitalism, we jumped to imperialism. And from imperialism, we have jumped, and this is what people call globalization. I call it transnationalism. And at the end of the day, now, 2017, we are facing, as I told you when we start, this big problem, because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, whatever is going on in the world, terrorism, conflicts, war, North Korea, South Korea, China, Russia, USA, UK, France, Brexit, etc., is just the expression of the terrible fight among the powers between the possibility to have an unipolar world, just one will, just one decision, one language, one costume, one way to govern, one way to be organized, and a multipolar world. Of course, you already know what is my position. And of course, you have the whole right to have your own position in the world. Still, as the UN used to say, I strongly encourage you. This is the diplomatic way to say, do it! I strongly encourage you to put your money in the multipolar world. Okay, now that we have seen this, let's going to check about concepts in order to follow the methodology that I have explained to you. Excuse me, the decent thing is to have a glass, and I forgot the glass. Peace, no? I am sure that you have received, because this is the introductory course on peace issues, no? So there are so many theories about what peace is, a triangle, a circle, stairs, etc., As I said, blah, blah, blah. This person, the other, everyone is a genius. Very difficult to read all these theories and, gee. Okay, directly, let's go into see. This comes from the Declaration of UNESCO. And you will see that I will refer a lot about the UN for several reasons that we will see later. But what is peace? This is exactly a copy of the UNESCO Declaration. Peace is not only, the cease of the guns or the war or the cannons or people dying around. No, it's not only the demilitarization of a place or the declaration that of peace. Okay, we don't shoot each other. Peace, in truth, is this: is the satisfaction, the whole satisfaction of our primary needs. That is peace. The rest are beautiful theories. End of the story. In reality, if you have all your primary needs absolutely satisfied, you are in peace. If your people, your country, your city, your neighborhood had absolutely all primary needs satisfied, you will be in peace. Because we human we are not born to fight. We are born in us when we were trying to be humans, to survive. And we are born to help each other to do the same. However, when we are in this war, when we have to start thinking, okay, what do I do because I need to survive? Then society and the demands of the society will push me to kill you, to kick you, to do whatever. Why? Because I need that employment more than you. That's my idea. No? You will think the same. This is just an example. But what happens there? We are fighting for survival. Why? We will see it later. But in reality, humanity has plenty for everybody. The problem is that that plenty is concentrated in few hands. That's the main problem. Tell me. You need, essentially, you need to eat. No? You need to sleep, which means that you need to have a safe place to sleep. You cannot sleep there in the jungle, no? You need to have health care. If you are sick, you need to know that you will be taken care of. Somebody will heal you. You need to be educated, no? And you need a job. After that you are educated and that you have been given the opportunity to express yourself in your totality with all your resources. After that you are educated, what is it? You are not going to be a doctor, as it happens in my country, that we have so many doctors, so many engineers working as taxi drivers. You are going to work as a doctor. Or if you are an artist, you will be working as an artist. So your work will be, number one, a dignified activity, and number two, an activity that will be paid by the society in accordance to your necessities, and in accordance to your production. It's not a kind of charity, it's an obligation, no? So you are not in fear, you are at peace. Why? Because, okay, of course, something can happen. Suddenly I will drop dead here. What can I do? Who watch Game of Thrones in this room? What do we say to that? Not today. I wake up every day and say, not today. Forget it. Okay? So those are the basic necessities. Would you expect that you will have to queue under the rain with your baby in your arms because you cannot get into a hospital? No. It is supposed that you babies will have health care. You see, those are your basic necessities. Huh? And if you have those basic necessities covered, of course you will be at peace. You won't be with fear. Please kindly remember that we are really very sophisticated. At least it takes for me like 1 hour to show myself in this fashion. After that, I just go destroy it. And then rebuild it again. Okay? So, but at the end of the day, under the sophistication and glamour and elegance or whatever, we are animals. And still we react as animals. And which is our basic instinct? Not the movie, huh? If somebody saw the movie, not the movie, please. Okay, survival is our first instinct. So that instinct will tell us, if you are afraid like this, without thinking, reacting in a microsecond, you will attack or you will fly. We are animals. Therefore, if you are afraid, if you are attacked, if you are cornered, what would you do if you cannot fly? You will attack. End of the story. That's peace. That's conflict. I say, I'm going to write this, maybe become famous, and then you will have to study me. Is this possible, ladies and gentlemen? Can we talk without shame about peace? Can we give humanity advice on how to become peaceful and how to finish conflict and how to build peace when 1% of the population of the world owns 50% of the wealth and goods of the same world? Can we have the nerve to tell the world, this is what you should do, while there are people, the majority, living with $1.25 per day? What are we talking about when we are talking about peace building, peacekeeping, sustainable peace, Millennium Development Goals? What is a new one? Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development Goals. No, it's always the same thing. The New Deal, the last deal, the ultimate deal, the solution. Excuse me, it's so easy, then I will say, redistribute the wealth for all. It's enough. But if 1% of the population has half, what do you expect from the other billions that have nothing? Conflict. Because if we are all here, and I am sweating like a dog, and then we have only this bottle, trust me, I will use this against anyone who will try to take that bottle from me. As simple as that, no? It's very easy, and this is peace, and this is conflict. I hope you will never again forget. And it's impossible to forget it if you look at it like that. It's so simple that I always ask myself, it's so simple, it's so evident. It's there. The answer is there. The problem is that we don't know the answer. The problem is that we don't have the will to implement the answer. That's it. And it's interesting. Same thing goes for human rights. They are inherent to individuals, universal legal guarantees, reflected in international norms and standards. You will see in the last slides that these are all part either of the material that you are studying or of the UN documents. Legally binding on states, no? All these are human rights. What else are human rights? Are indivisible, interdependent, interrelated. You have no idea what kind of imagination you have to have in order to work for the UN. And then this, because we are the ones inventing this. I mean, like, how to say, interpreting the will of the powers of the world. This should be civil, political, economic, social, cultural. Have we forgotten something? Ethical values, freedom, equality, dignity, freedom from humanity fears. Okay, I believe that this covers everything. Is this true, ladies and gentlemen? When was this signed? When was this established as the international norm, jus cogens, natural law? This is inherited because we are human beings, no? And the international human rights system is directed and established as the Charter of Foundation of the UN established to maintain international peace and security, to compel the world to the pacific settlement of disputes, to compel the world to punish international crimes, and to compel the world to respect and guarantee human rights. Article 38 says what are the primary sources of all these ideas. Custom, of course, international treaties produced by the UN, that's why we are calling the UN so many times, and the general principles of law. This is supposedly the framework in which we all live, or must live, no? And who are the principal actors, and who are the principal responsibles to bring this to reality, to bring this to the everyday life of everyone living inside their borders? The states that should implement the legal system. I don't have more than invite you to watch the news at the TV, and you will discover that nothing of this is being respected now. The world, after that President Harry Truman signed the UN Charter of Foundation of the United Nations, giving a marvelous speech when he said, we have overcome the most brutal episode in human history. And we are signing this charter now because this would never again will be repeated. And if this will be repeated, we will be betraying ourselves, betraying our heroes, betraying our history, betraying our future. Okay, so for your information, you are all betrayed. And you have only, in order to be sure of how much you have been betrayed, to watch the news. Because in this very moment, there are at least twice the number of people that has been displaced in the war in comparison to those who were displaced in the Second World War. So the betrayal is indeed huge for humanity. But we insist, ladies and gentlemen, what a difficult issue. I don't know if you have the saying in English, but in Spanish we say that human beings are the only animals that will hit twice with the same rock. Here we go again, paf! Jesus, any other animal, no. He already felt, no, I don't go that way, no. But we human beings go directly, paf. Now what is in the making? The possibility of an atomic bomb. Weren't you happy with Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And now you want to kill us all. Huh? And there are people that is yelling and clapping. Yes, yes, yes. Kill the man, bomb him, put. And there are other more stupid and criminals that are thinking we will survive. No, ladies and gentlemen, we won't survive any nuclear confrontation. No. Be sure of that. That's it. But here we go again, to hit the same rock. So, that we have been betrayed, yes. That the Charter of Foundation of the United Nations has been betrayed, yes. By whom? By the governments of the world. Essentially by whom? By those who represent the P5. This is a reality, I'm sorry to say. By whom? By the whole humanity that is not able to stand up and say what the French revolutionaries said to Louis the King before beheading him. 1 to 1, my lord, we are equal than you, but all together we are more than you and better than you. So goodbye, auf Wiedersehen. So that we haven't been able as humanity to say. In this big framework, ladies and gentlemen, we have the problem of the gender concept that you are very aware of because I look on the video, the class of Professor Heather. So you know exactly what gender is. And you are absolutely sure and knowledgeable on the issue that sex and gender are two absolutely different things. Also, you are aware of stereotypes, the meaning of stereotypes and the way in which society reacts to you because of your sexual identity. Listen what I am saying. So, once that we know exactly what gender is, and it is supposed that this class has to talk about conflict and how this conflict should be dominated, should be managed, and should disappear, we have to keep in mind one phrase, and I am quoting Professor Heather on this. When we talk about gender, we are talking about everyone. We are not talking only about women. Don't make that mistake. We are talking about the whole humanity. And you will see next why I am saying this. So, what happened with conflict and war, as we already said before, when human rights are not respected, when the dignity of the people has been destroyed, then sooner or later we will resort to violence. No? And normally we will have poor governance, weak institutions, high insecurity, and sometimes this will last for long years. But in this context, no, we have already talked about this, but this is a kind of summary. Why would be the conflict, normally speaking? Wealth, natural resources, no? Confrontation between the elite, that is also small, as we have seen, and the whole population. It could be a military domination, a coup d'etat also. It could be formal democracy. What is a formal democracy? Can anyone tell me what is a formal democracy?
You vote. You vote.
You go and vote. Viva la democracia. I am going and I vote. And after that, what? And after that, at least in Latin America, those who are elected become a kind of princes. Huh? You have to queue, you have to beg somebody to help you. How I am going to talk to the, parliamentarian, the senator, the minister, the president? It's almost impossible. So that's formal democracy. Real democracy is the possibility of everybody in the world to participate in the decision-making process that will handle the destiny of that particular country or population, no? And another driver could be land and property issues, as we were discussing when we talk about the bottle, no? Of course, normally this will happen in a very weak institution, poor public services. Corruption is our dearest friend. You can read about my country. After 10 years of one person in power, absolute corruption, no rule of law at all. There are people that exist over the law, and there are decades of intermittent violence in that particular country. So these are like the secondary phenomena that will exist along the conflict or that will provoke the conflict. Here you will see something that has been recently discovered and has moved the United Nations to think that we had a missing link, as we will notice later on. It happens that 1 billion people live normally in violence and conflict environments. 42 million people are displaced as a result. Poverty, 20% of people in conflict. Is particular, these figures come from the UN, the places where we have missions. Still, I say we. From 1981 and 2015, it was a decline on poverty. But after that, I mean, in the middle of this, remember what happened? It was a terrible economic crisis in the USA in 2008. That is still impacting us, and we haven't been able to recover as humanity. That's the issue. So, despite this, countries affected by conflicts remained poor. And at the time, because listen, this is 2015, that was the year when Agenda 2030 were adopted, and was the year in which we arrived to the extraordinary conclusion that, oh my God, we haven't been able to accomplish the Millennium Development Goals. Of course we haven't. But were you expecting that we will eradicate poverty for 2030? Please tell me. Everybody will be able to live properly in 2030. That is horribly just in 13 more years. It's impossible, but still we insist, no? So again, this just for your information and for your discussion later on when you will be working with my colleagues, the professors that are facilitating this. These are the root causes of conflict, not according to me. According to me, I already told you. No? If 50% of the population have 1% of the whole wealth of humanity, and billions of people are living with $1.25 per day, that's the root of all conflict. But still, this is the UN version, the academic version, because we have to have some kind of version. So, hatred, ethnic divisions, lack of understanding of democratic norms. You see, the sense of injustice and inequality, the sense. Do you have the sense, or do you really are experiencing inequality and discrimination? Trust me, I experience inequality and discrimination. Trust me. So, or it's just a sense, I am imagining. I have the sense that I am feeling hungry. No, I am starving. That's the truth. So it's not a sense. Military dominance. Have you seen how the armamentist career has been improved? How many billions of dollars are being expended in weapons? And then there is no money to help people to recover from the last Hurricane Harvey. But we have billions of monies to buy and to invent the most destructive weapon in the world. So do you have some kind of shame? That would be my question. Why is it that you don't have sense of shame? Lack of civilian oversight and accountability, please. Don't make me laugh. Former combatants. Excuse me, but this is the official version. I must laugh. So, poverty. Of course, poverty and lack of livelihoods. So, the official answer will be public service delivery. Look at the official answer. Employment creation and peace dividends. How are you going to do this in this world that we are living now? So the class is not for you to learn any theory. Again, I said no triangles, no circles, no stairs, no whatever door or whatever. No. Simple reality. Common sense, that as we say in Spanish, is I don't know if you can say that in English, the less common of all senses, the common sense. That's what we say in Spanish, no? And here we have, in this framework, now already knowing what it means gender, what it means peace, how humanity has evolved, what it means poverty, what are the fears of humanity, what are the root causes. So here we have peacekeeping. The peacekeeping are the missions delivered by the blue helmets, you see, no? That help to stabilize conflict areas. That's their job, no? So some missions that are organized, why we talk about this? Because the only body in the world that have the mandate to decide if a war is going to be authorized, yes or not, is the Security Council. End of the story. Whatever other power that decide to open a war and to wage a war against other country without the acceptance and resolution of the Security Council is acting in criminal terms. Full stop. Okay? So some missions that are created in order to bring back peace also are working on revitalizing economies. So far the UN has 15 peacekeeping missions. We have 13 specialized political missions in places where we cannot do still peacekeeping, but we are working, we are plotting, we are talking, we are making deals, etc., in order to later on establish a peacekeeping mission. And we have, of course, envoys and special advisors. One of them, I believe, Del Ponte is her name, just resigned the other day in the middle of a big, Carla Del Ponte, just resigned the other day saying, this is a joke, so I am leaving. I am resigning because when it comes to Syria, I mean, the majority of the Western powers don't want to listen. So as this is a joke, I am resigning. Bravo for her. So peace building is not peacekeeping. Peace building is another issue. And remember, we are talking about gender mainstreaming in peacekeeping and peace building. So supposedly peace building should be based in establish sustainable peace and stability, no? So it is established, it is also supposed to lay down the foundations for economic recovery and development, to build institutions and infrastructures, and to overcome legacies and root causes of conflict. And I go back to the first minutes that we were talking. This peace building issue is a very good effort but cannot be also decreed. It should be the result of the development of the society. If you want to do that, you have to help doing that. You are not going to develop economically a country because you want to take its petroleum or its mines or its diamonds, etc., and you are creating jobs. You are creating jobs and you are creating wealth for this country, for a part of this country, while the conflict is ongoing. So that's the reason that you have to be very alert on what happens when a peacekeeping and a peace-building mission is going on. What are the real root causes? So here we have the official explanation that if we have less wars, fewer cops, more democracy, we will be more organized and we will be more civilized and we will be closer to peace, democracies. In 1946, 20. Now we have 100. Yes, but what is the difference? In 1946, at least the war has finished. Now we have wars all over the world. Asymmetrical wars, terrorist wars, the Syria war, Afghan war, Yemen war, now Pakistan, India is fighting, everybody fighting. So what is the meaning of this democracy? Now we have closer to 100 democracy. So what? Yemen is a democracy. Iraq is a democracy. Are they in peace? No. No, ladies and gentlemen. So that's the important issue. Authoritarian regimes. Okay, let's going to kill, what was the name of the gentleman? The gentleman that caused the reaction of Miss Hillary Clinton saying, we came, we saw, and he died. Gaddafi, no? Okay. Authoritarian regimes. At the time, almost 90. We have destroyed all of them. We went, we saw, we destroyed them. And now they are living in peace. Are they living in peace in Gaddafi or in the Gaddafi country, or they are destroyed as a system? How was that country before we decided to go see and everybody die? It happened that was one of the most developed countries at the level of the world. What about that? And we were all friends. There was also, meaning all the powers were friends. They were taking money from Gaddafi, money plus women, drugs, and etc. So here we have different situations. Latin America, you will see the differences with the coup d'etat. But, it happens that we are living in democracy in Venezuela. Are we living in democracy in Venezuela? Are we in peace in Venezuela? But it's democracy, no? So Africa, don't make me start talking about Africa. And countries in 1992, 21 countries involved in conflict. This is official source, Center for Humanitarian Dialogue. 2011, 7 countries involved in interstate and civil conflict, where we were better. So what happened? From my personal perspective, this kind of explanations will only lead you to a terrible confusion if you don't analyze the issues as they are. Political decisions are the result of economic problems or economic decisions or economic needs. Also economic greed and economic ambitions. So if you don't have those lines very clear, you read it, and of course this is a beautiful war. It's a small war after all, as Disney will say, and it's beautiful. Now we are, of course, in peace, closer to peace. And here we crash against one of the major problems that the UN has, and as a result, the humanity has. Peace building, that is what we are checking now, in order to mainstream gender, is a SHELP, they said. Safety and human security, intervention of the civil society, healing, livelihoods, empowerment of women and youth. Please, this is our problem. Empowerment of women and youth, and public administration and accountability. Then we have to think, is the UN that is making the mistake to mix and to confuse gender with women? You don't need to empower only women and youth. You need to empower everybody. And that would be the only way, no? And now, this is beautiful. The idea to keep women victimized. We are Virgin Mary. While we suffer the most, we are better. So women are the ultimate victims of conflict. Are you sure? What about children? And at the end of the day, what about the planet? I am not saying that we are not in a very vulnerable position, but we are not the only ones. We women, we are not the only ones that are in this terrible situation. It's humanity the one that is in this terrible situation. So please forget about the issue of women in this particular thing. At least talk of gender, no? And then you involve the whole humanity, no? So these are the success stories that we have to present to the world. So 33% households in Rwanda are headed by women. What about the 70% that is missing? 28% in Nepal headed by women. What about the other 72%? Sexual violence, 200 women and children raped over a decade. What about men that were raped? What about youth that were raped? Boys and girls that were raped? LGTB people that were raped or killed? So Sierra Leone, 64,000 incidents related to sexual violence, and this is the UN Center on Sexual Violence in Conflict. Please.
When you talk about children, you're taking into account early childhood too, or just from 5 to...
I am talking about anyone according to the International Convention of the Right of the Child. Anyone who is less than 18 years old is a child. End of the story. You can be 1 month, 1 day, or 70 years, 11 months, what else? 364 days, and you are still, legally speaking, a child. Okay? Good. And here the big question, and the rest of minorities. What happened with the rest of minorities? What happened with people in disabilities? What happened with bisexual, transgender, intersexual? What happened with those who are minorities according to the nationality, ethnic, religions? All these minorities. What happened besides women with the rest of humanity? We have to understand at the end of the day that we are subjects of multiple discrimination. So remember, the fight is not for women's rights. The fight is for humanity, dignity, and rights. That's the fight. That's the real fight. Because men are also raped. Men are also victims. Men are also poor. Men are also gay, bisexual, or transgender. Men are also part of the minorities, religious minorities, national minorities, etc. It's humanity, ladies and gentlemen, and the problem is not this one. The problem is 50% of the wealth of the world in the hands of 1% of its population. As this is a short class, although I am just finishing, here you will have all the resolutions that the Security Council has taken in order to guarantee, again, women's security while in conflict. Resolution 1325/2000 is called Women, Peace, and Security. Yeah, but it's not only women, those who need peace and security. It's the whole humanity. And that's an important issue to understand. The second issue that is interesting to understand is this difference. There are two types of resolutions that the Security Council can adopt. If the Security Council adopts a resolution under Chapter 7 of the Charter, this will be obligatory, mandatory, and legally binding for all state parties of the UN. Meaning that if you don't comply with that resolution, your country will be punished by the international community. Example, the Security Council Resolution 1373/2001, counterterrorism measures. All countries of the world were compelled to change their penal and criminal codes. Therefore, if we want to ensure, because we are so desperate, and after 50 years we haven't been able to place women in the same foot that men, shouldn't we be adopting all these resolutions? There is a long list. You will see SCR, Security Council Resolution. You see all the numbers. Why don't you adopt this resolution under Chapter 7 and make them obligatory, mandatory for all countries of the world, under the advice that it will be a punishment if the country doesn't comply? Huh? So, no, we say in Spanish also, I don't know how to say in English. To the bread, bread, you call the bread, bread, and the wine, wine. Al pan, pan, al vino, vino. I also don't know how do you translate that in English. So let's go. We are finishing this. This is gender mainstreaming concept. Yeah, remember, this is gender mainstreaming in peace building. It means that all problems, all programs, all plan strategies, all activities should be adopted in order to place women and men, address, number one, women and men necessities and problems, and place women and men necessities and problems at the center of any resolution, project, plan, or policy that you will be adopting. And the ultimate goal is to achieve gender equality, no? It's the only way in which the programs, whatever program, political, economic, legal, cultural, and social problems will be addressed. So taking into account women and men. I am wondering what happened with LGBTI and all letters, for example, of sexual minorities, as for example, no? So again, here we face the same problem. The confusion that the own UN is making between sex and gender. That's the point that I want to do and to make. And also gender mainstreaming approach, you will have to identify the root causes of existing gender inequalities, but we have already in our mind that it will be inequalities against women, no? Because they said between men and women. So what are the inequalities between men and women? But now, in the next, they are saying, okay, identify gender inequalities. And reaffirming this confusion, you will find obstacles to female empowerment. Notice that? And then, three times, huh? 3 times. you have a charm, a saying in 3 times. 3 times will work or something that is said. Echo, 3 times a charm, no? So the third time, opportunities to promote women leadership and participation. Again, women and gender, like a synonymous. And, of course, methods for males' active participation in the empowerment of women. So again, the UN is giving international guidelines and instructions to divide humanity into two big parts, men and women. And after that, they are saying, "Uy, what about the other? What about the other people?" Because there are multiple discrimination. Discrimination is not only one discrimination, and it's not true that only women are discriminated. It's not true that only women are disempowered. It's not true that only women have no access to power. It's the majority of the humanity that has not access to power, has not economic power, has no decision-making power, has no presence in the destiny and fate of the society, no? And 3 dimensions to look at: empowerment, labor-making, family relations, family indicators, access to property, citizenship, parliamentary representation, educational attainment, labor force participation. This is the official version of what would it mean to have gender equality in a country to comply with the gender equality policies that the UN is requiring. So men and women should have equal participation within these indications, no? And here the big discovery, finally, as I told you, the missing link. The missing link is that, wow, sustainable peace can only be achieved if we have development, finally. 2015, the international community has discovered this, and therefore the UN is getting into a complete reformulation of policies and reorganization of the society. Of the organization. It has been last Wednesday when the Security Council got the last meeting in this period. All these issues are going to be discussed in the General Assembly that will start in September, at mid-September, next week, no? How to streamline UN work, forget about all these issues that we have been talking. We're going to forget this, and we're going to come up with another proposal for humanity in order to overcome this UN 7-point action plan that we know already that is not working, because it was adopted in 2010, and so far we are still having gender responsiveness at the negative level all over the world, including peacekeepers committing crimes against civilian population, including peacekeepers raping children, involved in sex trafficking, in human trafficking, weapons trafficking, in diamonds trafficking, peacekeepers. So the new Secretary General has declared that there are only 2 possibilities: or the reorganization and rerouting of the UN, or its disappearance. This is the level to which we have been taken. So again, here you will find this mentality that women, no, like Virgin Mary again, no, are also, now they give us this responsibility. They don't give us the responsibility to make war, but they put all the weight of the responsibility to make peace in the shoulders of women. Why? It happens that we are agents of change. So, okay, let me contribute to the change by taking the decisions, not by picking up your mess. More or less, that's the issue, no? So, because we have an innate, could you hear something such insulting? Innate, you say, so like it's proper of women. It's proper of women our interest for peace. Are you sure? I am not sure. I mean, in my case, I am sure that that's not the case. No, we don't have an inner force that will draw us to peace. On the contrary, please, gentlemen, don't fight with a woman. You are in high danger. And, and you will be defeated. Maybe not now, but sooner or later you will be defeated. Simply because history has allowed us to develop our brain in a way that we can produce a net, and a spider net around you. And suddenly you will pop, die, and say, what happened? So that's it. I am not promoting differences between men and women. These are historical issues that has happened. Remember in the primitive community that men were hunters. I go there, I kill, I come back, I bring. After millions of years, they are doing the same. I go there, well, they don't kill now. Some of them they kill, but the majority no. I go there, take this, bring back, I am providing. That's natural reaction of a man. That's why, ladies, never, never, never cut. Gentlemen are going to say, yes, she's right. Never, never, never start running behind a man that you are interested on. Big mistake. No. You are cutting his natural hunter instincts. If you start hunting him, it could be in Sweden, it could be in Norway, the most developed countries when it comes to gender issues. You don't hunt a man because the man is going to run away. For sure. It's also scientifically proven. And they follow nature and history. You are a hunter. This is a biological issue, no? Now, women that historically has been, I would say, misshaped, not to take power directly, no? That's what the stereotype waits for us. What had happened in this period of history, these millions of years? We learn, historically speaking, to convince the man, for example, that he needs this. In reality, I need this, but I cannot say, this is mine, I am taking. It's not proper. These are the stereotypes. So I will convince him that he needs to take that for me. That's the way. So my brain works in a different way. And that's why a fight is already lost for men. An easier example, you catch a man lying to you, and you are sure that he has lied. You did this. Well, okay, that's a man. Now a woman. You did this. Me? Oh, no. Wait a minute, you have no idea the terrible issue that has happened. I was coming out and suddenly this accident happened and I had to do that, so the other stayed. Really? Yeah, and you have no idea. Then I call my mother, I call my cousin, you can call them, blah, 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 blah. Another example. This way of reaction is historical development, even if you don't want to believe it, even if it sounds as a joke. You write a paper explaining why your kid is not going to the school today. The father, the kid is sick, so sorry. Pablo, the mother. Dear professor, it happens that today Pepito had 40 of fever. I had to take him to the doctor and nobody is here. He cannot do his homework, blah, blah, blah. Long letter. Miriam. Again, these are issues, these are features that has been developed throughout the history of humanity as part of our interactions as human beings with nature and our interactions with humanity as such. So, finally, as I said, and this will be the motto that will prevail in the new General Assembly now, starting next week on Monday, peace, human rights, and sustainable development are indivisible. Bravo, finally. How are they going to take this to reality? We have to be alert to the news. Let's going to see now that we have sustainable development goals, that we have Agenda 2030. How is it that humanity, in the time of terror, humanity, where in the time of the war to kill and to drive up to hell the terrorists, is going to make peace, human rights, and sustainable development indivisible. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to finish this class. I will see several of you with me in international law, but I couldn't see the majority of you, so I will finish this class as I usually finish my conferences, because I believe it's important. You are young people. I always finish my conferences repeating a poem of Bertolt Brecht. Remember that? He says, there are people who fight for their principles sometimes, and they are good people. They are people who fight for their principles more often, and they are also good people. But there are people who fight for their principles every single second of the world, of their life. Those are indispensable. So I really hope that after this experience here, you will become part of those indispensables. Thank you very much.